when you lean into your heart and you just speak your truths, then the right stuff comes out. And now at least we know it. We say that 80% of healing is just awareness, right? The other 20% is the process, but that's easy to tackle. At least we have it. We have the elephant in the room out and we can both see it. And then we can go from there. That's the way I tackle it. Just always in empathy and patience and understanding and compassion. That's all we want anyway as humans, but it's hard to do it for ourselves for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I think a lot of people would agree once they've stepped through the light, as they say. But right before they see the wall and the light, they're probably gonna run away, run back, run away, and at some point you get confronted, and there's no way out, no way back. Let me invite you to sit back, drop your jaw, tongue, and shoulders. Take a deep breath, and if you wish, close your eyes for a moment and feel the beat within. In a few seconds, you just jumped from your head to your heart and felt the beat within, opening up to receive even more value and fulfillment out of your business and life. And today's episode. I'm your host, Nico van der Venne, confidant to successful CEOs, founders, and entrepreneurs. We're striving to achieve everlasting. Welcome to the Everlasting Fulfillment Podcast with our next guest, Elona Lopari, who is the CEO of the Life School. And I want to welcome you, Elona. We're both Europeans. You might have been a bit away for a while, or still are, but tell us who you are. Tell us about your magic. What do you do in the world?
Well, thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for creating this beautiful space. Natively, yes. Originally, I'm from Albania. Been living in the U.S., New York specifically, for the last 27 years. And my passion and purpose today is to help CEOs and entrepreneurs scale and align a purpose-driven company that does more good in the world through helping them do just that, scale their purpose and alignment and profit, so that we could flip the script in the way that we are maybe used to growing a company that can be a legacy builder, can be something that you can exit from, or can be used as a channel for philanthropy.
That's a beautiful mission. And I think there's a lot of companies out there who can listen to you. Or should listen to you, I would say. When you look at the world and you say, I want to make it a little bit better, how do you see that from your point of view?
Yeah, and I think that stems from my experience, right? So I climbed the corporate ladder, chased the American dream. That was why we came here, right? I remember the early struggles of me being an older child, the oldest child of my other two siblings, and just kind of working very early on, and very early on as we moved here, planted the seed by my dad, especially, that we can be anything here. And you know, chasing the American dream. That's kind of the goal of why we're here and why we brought you here. So that's kind of what I did without questioning the journey. I got my bachelor's, business management and finance. I was always intuitively pulled towards business, even at that age, because who knows, you know, who you are at that early age of college, those college years. And then I happened to be in the right moment at the right time and spot with a company that was growing in the retail industry. So that's my first job. I climbed the corporate ladder, started from management trainee all the way to the C-suite level, only to be like, is that all this is? Like, I thought I would feel different. I would feel happier. Meanwhile, I had built my little family, married my husband, you know, bought our home and all of that, right? So I had, I guess, you know, the safety, the safety base built in my life. And I just couldn't understand why I was unhappy and unfulfilled, speaking of the theme and the podcast today. And I felt jinxed. I'm like, wait, I was praised for achievement all these years. And I thought that me achieving would be my ticket to happiness. And I felt a big emptiness inside of me. And a little voice started to come about, like a little birdie voice of me saying that you're meant for something bigger, you're meant for something else. And I just didn't know what that was going to be like. And that's kind of how entrepreneurship showed up for me. My husband's been an entrepreneur for years ago. well, years before that, I should say, in the construction field. And I guess he's more practical than me. When you're in like a crossroad, you don't always like see what you don't see. And he saw it for me. He's like, you got a lot of experience, especially leadership was one of my top strengths. He said, why don't you just go out on your own and try it out? Because I didn't feel like I wanted to go and do another 9 to 5. So like been there, done that. What else is there? And plus I wanted to explore the big wide world, so to speak. So that's kind of what I did, ventured out for executive coaching for women leaders because I happen to be a woman in a C-suite position. And then I still felt like I was in a corporate space. I said, okay, it's got to be more. This is not really the thing. So then I offered some career coaching due to my HR experience, which still didn't feel like it was the biggest impact I wanted to make. And then just piecing, connecting dots, I stayed with business. I said, business and leadership are my two strongest pillars. That's really the way that I want to contribute towards myself or beyond myself, I should say. And I said, because I now answered my purpose, I think there's got to be better ways to grow a business that's more holistic, where you can put your purpose first and then align the profit piece. Because one of the reasons why I left where I was is because the corporate culture turned very profit driven, where I was no longer, seen as an individual. I no longer believed in its values, in the way that my work was contributing beyond my paycheck and all of that and all the bonuses that I would receive at those stages. So I said, there's got to be a better way. And I'm glad I stuck, with my guns, and there is a better way. Putting purpose first is really important. And then obviously we still have to make money, do all the things, P&L, all the profitability measures and metrics that are still important. But when you put purpose first and you connect it with a lot of those metrics, you tend to be on fire because you're only going to grow and evolve, and you're never going to face the risks that most companies face with kind of dying out, phasing out, copycatting, competition, all those things that happen when you're just doing something for the wrong reason. So let's turn into my mission today.
That's a very specific path you walked. It's just you did a discovery, but it was very specific. Did you take the time to reflect on that, and looking at all the dots that passed through those periods?
Yeah, I mean, my first book was called Connecting the Dots Backwards because I go back and forth in retrospect a lot. I don't know if it's something obviously connected to my purpose or personality or what it is, but I like to go backwards into my past and kind of, look at patterns, look at the things that attract me, look at things that I'm passionate about, look at even my challenges. Like, how did I fall, get back up? And then I'm a visionary. So I see visions for the future. I see what's not seen. I hear what's not heard. And me learning how to tap more into my spiritual world and intuition and all of that, I realized that I'm equipped with many tools than I realized were more seen at, the material world of kind of just, technical skills or like, business world skills, things like that you can measure, those hard skills. So when I just go back and forth, I go and utilize my past to connect my dots, but then I create in the present moment, right? And I've kind of understood that creativity is also very unlimited. For the longest, I thought I didn't have a creative bone in my body, even though looking back at my journey, I was also very entrepreneurial inside of a company, which is why I was getting promoted every 2 years. And I just downplayed my gifts because I just thought everybody knew how to do this, right? So
Very recognizable.
doing that is so special. So maybe it seems linear and maybe that is my path, but that's why to me, when I meditate and go within and I do a lot of inner work, even with my clients, because I believe that's actually the work. Everything else is learnable. We can, learn the skills, we can have the knowledge, the education, but the inner work is the work that's going to transform you into that leader that you want to be and keep you on that path connected to your own unique journey. I realized that all those things that have happened to me have completely just were there for the right reason and happened to me on purpose so that I could be here. And then I just try to be very mindful and aware. The biggest thing I've worked on is awareness, because the more aware I can be, the more I could see, the more I can create, the more I can make the right decisions, which are such important things, especially when you are in the main decision maker seat, whether you are a founder, a CEO, or even working in the C-suite level for other companies. I think decision making from a good place is honestly the most important skill we have. Because when I look at my life, it's all the sum of those decisions that I've made. And when you make those decisions in the unconscious mode, then you tend to suffer and you have consequences. Of course, you learn from them. If you're smart and you know how to turn all of that into learning. But why go through pain when you can be more intentional and you can tap into things that are going to really help you work smarter or live smarter or more intentionally within connecting with your purpose so that you can have more flow, more ease, more fulfillment at the end of the day. You wake up and you realize that you're not a human doing, but you're a human being. That's a big hard lesson for a high achiever like myself. So
Yeah, yeah. I love the human doing, human being. It's like the busyness and business part. A lot of people are busy, but they're not business. Yeah, I kind of love what you're saying because there's a lot of parallels with my own story. I'm gonna go into detail. I've already told a lot about that in other episodes, but in essence, I love the fact that you bring up the more spiritual side of the person. There's one thing that I've noticed in all the coachings that I've been doing is that the idea in the world, in the general world, let's put it out there, is that people in a certain role should be hyper rational. They should be calculated thinkers, determining strategy based on clear thought and so on. Where I've learned the contrary. A lot of C-suites and a lot of leaders and founders, they look or they listen to their belly and ask, does this feel right? Or is this okay? And the body makes them clear if it's okay. And indeed, one of the statements that I love using, it starts from within. It's the only place where everything starts. If you have an issue with any people within your team, it starts with you. So yeah, I love what you're saying. And indeed, with the flow story, I've been through struggles as well, hitting the wall, right? Not even walking, but running straight, sprinting into the wall by just not thinking or feeling if something is right for me. And it's one of the things that I actually did when I left IBM was when I actually decided to leave, that was a gut feeling. It wasn't a rational thing. And the moment I submitted my resignation and I stepped out of that office, there was just joy in full embodiment. And that's completely different than what we're used to seeing or being taught in the business world where make statistics, look at the KPIs and see your upline, your downline, whatever, all those terminologies. And you're right. We need the numbers as well. You need to profit. Otherwise your business doesn't run. But in what way can I see you tackling a situation, for instance, with a C-suite person who is very rational on the outside, but actually suppress this inner self in that story? Can you give me an example of how you tackle that?
I felt your story, Nico, because I mean, once you developed a lot of these, I guess I call it the five senses of intuition, because that's easier for us to understand. And for me, this used to be foreign language, right? It might have been Belgium. I don't know how to speak it, right? So, but yeah, all this is foreign language until you try to go in and understand how these things work. But at the end of the day, it's always that battle, right? Between the ego and spirit, the battle between the logical and the feeling, right? And the gut. Now, how do we lean into each one for whatever, situation or circumstance? And it feels responsive less, right? Because I grew up to be very responsible and to use my logical brain for my executive decisions or major life decisions. I always had like the paper of like the pros and the cons, because that's how you're taught to problem solve, or the SWOT analysis. Yes, the SWOT analysis from my personal life.
Yes,
A
absolutely.
lot of the times we're like, okay, that's how it's gotta be. So I completely understand. And my more logical founders, which get attracted to me anyway, because I'm also very, left brain as the way I was wired. I just happen to have developed these other sides of me as well. And obviously now I can tap into each when needed. It's really getting into the depth of things, right? Understanding for me is always asking at the end of the day, all we do is our guides, right? I mean, for people, just holding the space, asking intentional questions, going deeper with some of the questions. Well, why is that important to you, right? Why is the number important to you? Why do you want to achieve that, right? Getting into the 5 whys. I mean, Dean Graziosi talks about the 5 whys, and he's got a book out and all of that. But I love that, because when you ask, you know, why is that important? And you keep connecting it to keep connecting the dots as to why, then you get to the emotional stuff, right?
Yes,
Well,
absolutely.
I want to deal with. It's like, I don't got time for this emotion stuff. I got a business to run. I got, this to do and all of that. And that was my story for the longest as well. I'm like, if I could just learn or just delegate, like the leader, delegate the feeling part out, I could just be
Yeah.
logical and I just be cold and I could
Mhm.
make my decisions like that. And I never can get hurt, and I
Yeah.
don't cope with negative stuff. But I realized that obviously that was not, because my attachment style was avoidance, right? From my trauma and some of the things that have happened to me during childhood, or even the way I was praised for achievement. I thought that's the way I am supposed to get love. If I don't achieve, then I'm not worthy of love, or I'm not good enough. So going into the deep layers of the reason why people want to do things is kind of how I like to tackle things. And then you always connect that with the logical, right? Because at the end of the day, I think we all have these assets, let's call them, right? We have the heart, we have the head, we have the spirit, we have our smart body. I mean, I never realized how smart our body is until I learned how to tap into my body, because for the longest to me used to be theory. I'm like, tapping into my body. Like, what does that mean? Here's the body I can touch. Like, what is there to do in this? That it's healthy, thankfully. And, I took care of it by exercising and doing things that I thought I should do. But oh my God, now that I've been through a spiritual awakening, so now everything's like connected. And I'm like, my God, I wish everybody can understand that all these things work together and how they play. But yeah, I mean, back to answer your question, it's me years ago holding the space and being uncomfortable with some of these answers, and being honest and just splitting out or spitting out whatever comes out and connecting people to their heart. Because in the brain, we're going to try to give an answer that's intelligent or whatever we feel based on our mumbo jumbo that happens. But when you lean into your heart and you just speak your truths, then the right stuff comes out. And now at least we know it. We say that 80% of healing is just awareness, right? The other 20% is the process, but that's easy to tackle. At least we have it. We have the elephant in the room out, and we can both see it, and then we can go from there. That's kind of the way I tackle it, just always in empathy and patience and understanding and compassion. I mean, that's all we want anyway as humans, but it's hard to do it for ourselves, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I think a lot of people would agree once they've stepped through the light, as they say. But right before they see the wall and the light, they're probably gonna run away, run back, run away, and at some point you get confronted, and there's no way out, there's no way back. And that's one of the things that I've noticed in all the years that I've done spiritual work is once you've opened the eyes, there's no way of closing. And sometimes it's kind of scary as well, because you know so much. You can see it in other people's situation, and you're like sitting there and you're sitting in front of somebody, and you're like, just grab it, you can, come on. But you can't tell them, because they might, you might lose them completely. And then you switch over to the questions. Like, oh, you said the 5 questions. I love the 7 questions. Basically the same, but just a little bit more. I like to do some extra. And indeed, it works marvels. It just opens up things that people don't want to discuss. And I've only recently done it again with somebody. And I work on 3 pillars: radical truth, deep connection, and enjoying the journey. Those are the 3 that I focus on. And this guy he was lying to himself, basic period. He was just lying to himself. Bodily, he was very big. He did not have any physical condition. So his body was shouting out, as in, you are not who you are. You should be different. And you could see that he could use another physique. And then in his job, he's arranging everything around him so that he doesn't have to take the responsibility of his own life. Those are just tidbits that you start seeing. And I started asking just a couple of questions. Started to go deeper and deeper and deeper. And at some point, you made that complete switch. And I don't know how you experience that. When you see those eyes light up, when they get the insights of what's really necessary and what they really should take responsibility for, that's a magical moment. Something that you
Yeah.
can enjoy.
I get goosebumps because I'm a feeler. I mean, feeling was one of my senses that I had to really work on the most because I shoved away, much like that story that you talked about, where I try to do everything, so I never had to feel because every time I felt, I was hurt, I was rejected.
Yes.
So those are the stories. But yeah, when you see that light come on to people's eyes, and you could see it so clearly for them, but they can't see it. I think patience and tuning in, to kind of what they're going through as well. I had a similar story with a client that we made a major decision of kind of discontinuing. She was in a physical location, but now her business is completely the way to scale. We clarified based on her vision, alignment, and all these things that are important to her. She no longer needed the physical space, but the reason why she's holding the physical space is because she had relationship challenges at home, with her romantic relationship. And that office was kind of her running away and trying to, to cope with some of the things that were happening relationally. And to me, it's like, my God, like, look at the way that we make decisions, right? Subconsciously or unconsciously or, consciously. She's paying a lot of money for that office space, she was not even utilizing. Because again, she was running away from something else that needed to be handled, and some of the traumas that needed to take, to get looked at. So that's how we make decisions every day in business, right? We invest in our marketing, and we don't take a look at the ways that the results are actually, happening for us or in our teams. And that shows up in our attention numbers. So yeah, it's amazing. I mean, it's almost like everything can be translated into something else and it becomes like a puzzle at the end. But we're all complex human beings. And the good news about hiring professionals, getting people to support you is that, we've seen patterns and it's easier for somebody else to see what you don't see. Because again, we all have our blind spots, which is why relationships are where I really believe it's the base of humanity, human relationships, because at the end of the day, even in business, we have human relationships around us. And those are always the best mirrors for us to take a look at and grow from, or hide away, if you want to hide. We can only do so much work of our own. I feel like the rest has to be with other people around us. So, but yeah, it's amazing how a lot of the, strategic business decisions are usually have a lot of hidden trauma behind them, and you're trying to escape from another problem, making the wrong decision, hurting your business because that was a big expense. And she could just free up once that came up. She's like, "Whew, I can breathe. I actually no longer need that. I can tackle the actual issue." But getting to the base of stuff is really important, because a lot of the other stuff that we try to tackle is more like superficial leaves of a tree. I like to look like a tree. Even my logo's a tree. Because when the individual is strong and solid, like the trunk of the tree, the leaves come around it and the flow is there. But most of the problems we try to problem solve are not even that important.
Okay.
Tackle the base, the root causes of stuff, and everything else just will become a byproduct of the thing that we try to achieve. And our life simplifies. We become minimalist. Then we can be finally, because we don't not to try to deal with 20 million things that have nothing to do with one another, but we just, because of our stories, we just want to feel productive, whatever story we got going on and why we're doing it. Life becomes so much simpler and so quiet. So I love it.
I understand you completely. I have the same feeling. I was on an interview last night with a guy from Poland, and we talked about the subject about how rich people never show that they're actually rich. They don't they buy this fancy stuff and they don't buy the Lambos and all that stuff. They just don't, and they just reduce everything in their life to the bare necessity because they're like, don't need to have all these things to be happy. And that's the same thing within business. At some point, you're gotta learn to strip away all the layers that you've kept for years out of the idea of scarcity, or I'm not good enough, or what would somebody else think, and stuff like that. Once you start shedding those things, and you just think, okay, we have a situation, there is a decision to be made, or we need to go somewhere, or we need to do something, and just do it. Just decide, just do it, just go ahead, and not all the blah blah that goes around that you get from childhood on, or from schools, or from whatever region that you've been in. And I find that amazing that a lot of people drag that with them whole life, and then at some point either they maybe burnout or depression, or they really, I don't know, get fired from a very high position and then lose everything, or they just need to lose everything to realize that there's another side of the coin that's completely flow and easy and spacious. Because I don't know how you feel about that, but the more I work these days with a sense of ease, the more spacious my world becomes. The more that I realize and come outside. I have an office in my garden, and it used to be my garage. We built, we kind of renovated it into an office. My wife is here as well. Not right now, but she's in the same office. When we've talked to each other about this, we come out of the office, we just step out the door, and we don't have a big garden or anything. We don't have a huge villa, but we realize there are birds in the sky. We realize how beautiful the clouds are. It's like all those things, your senses become a lot more aware of what's there in that moment. And that's what I love when you said you are a human being. It's really, it kind of hits the nail on the head. And it's one of the things that I've learned, especially from all the spiritual studies and so on that I've been doing. I've worked with tarot for 6 or 8 years. Can't remember, but not as, Madame whatever crystal ball stuff and future telling. No, it's a methodology that they teach you to focus on one thing, for instance, and to learn to be be in the moment. And there was one exercise where we had to one card 3 days, and then it was 6 minutes. You had to watch the card for 6 whole minutes. Just sit there and watch the card and look at it and realize what you see, and then write down 9 things that came up in you. Like, just write it down, say, oh, I saw color blue, or I saw a curvature there, or something like that. And then analyze what you wrote down. And it was amazing that at point 8 or 9, you started to go deeper within yourself, where you started realizing, oh, I'm seeing somebody here that actually hurt me in the, why am I thinking about this person now while I watch this card? And these are so beautiful, because you make a healing thing about you, but your inner self, and then your outside world also changes. That's one thing that I've mostly noticed, is that I've had struggles with people. And when I was doing the work within myself, I have a very specific situation. I had an N+1, my manager, and we had a conflict at some point. And I didn't feel right. I didn't want to do anything anymore. It's like, no, I don't want to talk to her anymore. And I said, oh, hold on. This is a lesson. What have I, got to learn from this situation? I started working on myself, and, doing Ho'oponopono, stuff like that, which I learned a while back. And our relationship became better and better and better. It's so freaking strange that when you do it within yourself, everything else changes. But it's so logical on the other side as well.
But it's really empowering too, because we talk about everlasting fulfillment right on the podcast, but it's also empowering that everything is never about anybody else or any other thing outside of us. And we are completely taught and programmed to look for everything outside of us, to chase everything around and outside of us. But at the end of the day, we're all equipped with all the right things, and people are just mirrors of things that you're projecting onto yourself. So if you just stay in the being and stay in the present moment, so many teachers speak about it, right? But again, unless you'll go through certain experiences and start to heal some of your shadows, then it's it's just theory. I'm like, great. I mean, good for somebody else that has 20 minutes to meditate, but my life is not that. Like, I got this and I got that and I got that because we're over here, right? Over here, there's always something to do. So yeah, I have similar experiences. I have talked about this, even on my content. I'm like, I feel like I've reached this decade in the 40 now, and I don't have a problem with sharing my physical age because I don't operate under my physical age. Um, but it's like all the years has been the years of unlearning or learning how to get to the core of who I actually am as a person and as an individual. And yeah, even if I live under a tree, I honestly would be very happy and peaceful. So all the stuff sometimes just overwhelms me that we have and we have accumulated even in my personal life. Sometimes that's about not all the time. And I'm like, we need nothing. We just need just each other. Honestly, that's it. Just human connections. Cause obviously we can't live without that biologically, right? But other than that, I mean, that's what it is. But I'm glad that I think we're all, being supported in so many ways to understand what's really important. Because for the longest time, we valued money, we valued fame, we valued superficial, who's going to be the fastest, who's going to be the richest, who's going to do this or that. And now I think we're really going into depths and core and really great values in humanity that always have been there, but because of all the growth and materialism, they kind of faded away and all the shiny objects that are here. And yeah, so I'm glad that we're all understanding and coming to our own awareness energetically that these things exist and we are spiritual beings at the end of the day, and our body is just our temple, which is a very smart temple to hold a very powerful spirits. So
Absolutely.
we all have that inside of us.
Absolutely. It's very true. I love that. There you go. We get a ding.
Confirmed it.
There you go. We have another confirmation indeed. It's beautiful to hear what you're saying, and especially when I come back to the fact where you're saying that we are human beings and we need the social contact. A couple of months ago, somebody told me like the evolution of, so we can last a very long time without physical food. We can last less time without water. We can last a very short time without our breathing, but we cannot last at all without the, what was it again? The indication of a physical presence in your environment. So where your senses are triggered by something in your environment. And they proved this for a part with Microsoft created this room where they removed all sound. It's like a closed case, and there's apparently something going on where you can win $1 million if you stay in there for an hour or something. And they put people in that room, and they leave everybody else, of course, out of the room, and they're in complete silence. So they're only with themselves, and the effect of no sound. So you hear your own heartbeat within your veins, and everything in your body that moves, because the human body moves the whole time. Also, you hear all of that. But one of the things that the people that were sitting there had the feeling that they had a very, very lonely. And it was so horrible that nobody likes to stay in there. They in the beginning, they were all saying this is because the sound is gone and so on. But it had to do with there was no connection anymore with the outside world. It was real isolation. So it's something that I found very interesting because I always think your surroundings you need, but apparently one of the other things that they found out was when they left babies in their crib for a long time, they would actually die. It's a kind of a horrible test, to be honest, but they've done weird things in the past, but apparently they would actually die because there was no physical affection. So they just got their bottle, and the people didn't even get them out of the bed and gave them the bottle and putting them to the chest. No, they gave the bottle really far away. And apparently children in that position, they wither away. They need affection. So our human internal spirit needs that affection. So we cannot live without each other. Simple
We
as that.
cannot. See, when we get down to the core of this, then it's like, okay, oh my gosh, human relationships is the most important piece. And you're not going to realize that until you kind of go through some of these things spiritually, whether it's voluntary or involuntary. In spiritual awakening, there is a phase called the void. And I've gone through it a few times. It's the scariest one because it's exactly what you're saying, where you feel disconnected to everything, including the universe. So you're like, where am I? Why am I here? Like you start going berserk in many things. And that's why you got to stay patient and you got to, focus on those other things that can keep you and, keep you in touch with the people around you or even your body or even your breathing. But it's a test so that you know that is the most important thing, but also a test so that you learn how to survive in that situation where you really are so independent, but also so connected to other people. We've heard it in so many ways, but I have lived through that. And that's honestly, like you said, sometimes I wish I don't know what I know. And I could just go back to unaware, close my eyes, close
Yes.
my mind.
Pure ignorance is bliss.
Ignorance is bliss some of the days, but it's all there to serve you at the highest level, right? Because it's your spirit. And I have learned that your spirit will never throw tests on you that you can't handle. So you just you got to trust and have faith, which is a really important thing that we can all lean into, especially when we don't see what we want to see or feel what we want to feel and feel disconnected as we're talking about. So, and most people that have vices or addictions, I've also noticed struggle from that, right? Because you can't get connected to self. How is it that you can get connected to other people? So it always starts and ends with us, which is also very empowering, I should say, because to me, I've always been very independent and self-reliant for many ways because it's my trauma bonding. But many other ways is because I value my freedom and just to do the things that I want to do. And you just realize that it's really important to know how to be on your own, but also so that you can learn how to connect to others. Because unless you have connected to self, then you can have the most amazing relationships around you, the most amazing humans, but you're never going to know or see them or appreciate them or know how to connect with them. So the work is only ours. And that's the most important work that I think most humans are realizing. And then everything else will be a byproduct of that, right? The business, the money, the fame, or whatever else. Once we start questioning, you realize it's all ego anyway. And once you're then there's no need for all of that because it's just the spirit is free and happy wherever it is.
Yeah. True.
Well, it's fun. It's life becomes like a game at the end of the day, and every day is a new experience to wake up, feel joy, grow, learn, grow, stay curious, and just do it over and over again. And you lose concept of time, right? Because in quantum there is no such thing, right? It's all human stuff, so we can structurize things and
yes.
So
we invented time. We're the time inventors, and basically it's non-existent. The only thing that exists is choice. So that's something that I've learned as well in all the years. I really love our conversation, Elona, but one question I really want to ask you is, what's the message that you want to send out into the world right now?
To just pay attention, stay aware, connect your own dots. If there's things that are attractive to you, follow that gut feeling. Try them out. If what's the worst that could happen? You're gonna realize that you don't like it. Something. Stay open and curious. Surround yourself with the right relationships. I think it's really important. It's back to that saying, the 5 people we hanged out with are pretty much that's our circle. So align yourself with the right people, but pay attention to that and then find spaces so that you can spend time with yourself. Whatever channel you're going to utilize doesn't have to be meditation. It could be a walk. It could be anything else that you enjoy doing, but spend time with yourself, to kind of listen to your intuition because we all have it. You might have some natural intuitive intuition that you don't even know is down, it's actually inside of you. And then that's it. Life becomes about just, following the breadcrumbs and just connecting your own dots towards the things that give you light and joy. And the end of the day is only dark and lightness, right? And lean into your light. And when you're in your darkness, which is all the healing, the shadows, the things that you'll overcome, find support, find people that are there that can do this for you, hold the space and help you leverage some of those blind spots so that you can tap into your light again and heal what's unseen. And this is the only way that obviously you could even have all the material results that you want: a successful business, money, fame, relationships, whatever else that you value, freedom. I mean, I think most people are realizing that freedom of my time is the most important commodity that we have. So I've also, I try to stay mindful of the same message for myself every day, even though, we can get lost sometimes and we can get into our problems, which kind of, take us in downfall. But, just stay mindful that you have your own individual path. And as long as you just stay within that, you're always going to know what would be the right next step for you, and take that inspired action step. It's there for you to take, and always trust it.
I like the inspired action. Absolutely. Thank you very much, Elona, for these inspirational words. It's very nice to hear that there's also somebody over in New York that has kind of the same mindset that I have. I know there are many more, but you confirmed to me that indeed there's an alignment there, and that. Where can people find you, and how can they get in touch with you? Because I think we might have a couple of people who say.
Well, thank you, Nico. Yes, souls don't have a physical home. I could physically be in New York and you could be there. That's how I look at things nowadays, with lights of just soul everywhere in the world. And we come into each other's paths to support each other. People can find me on my website, elonaloparicoaching.com. And they also will find some free resources that could help them with some of the discovery of their purpose. And then, of course, tools to utilize that and put that into a successful company that, at the end of the day, does more good in the world through their service, if they have a service, because that's really what I do and where I specialize. So, and my podcast as well. I would love to invite you to that. I do a similar type of format. It's called the Life School Masterclass Show. And I value people's experiences. As humans, this is how we learn from one another, right? We learn from sharing our experiences. And you never know what dot gets connected by listening, which I hope that the same happened here. If people want to check that out, it's the Life School Masterclass Show. They can find it anywhere podcasts are spread out.
Well, people, you know where to go. It's as simple as that. Just click on a couple of links in the description. I'll put them down there as well, so people can easily connect with you. Thank you again, Elona, for your time today, and to the listeners, for to jump from your head to your heart. Have a Thank you for listening to the Everlasting Podcast. Let me leave you with a few questions to answer in the comments. How do you see the different topics we discussed during this interview? What are your thoughts? What stood out for you? Let us know in the comments, or just send us your feedback. We launch new episodes weekly. Don't miss any by ensuring you are subscribed to the show. Click the follow button now. We depend on the organic growth of the podcast to inspire more and more people. So by giving us a 5-star review and sharing this episode with at least one of your friends who might be interested in the subject, you will significantly help more people become inspired. But more than anything, I am grateful to you for taking the time to listen to the show. If you are also a successful CEO, founder, or entrepreneur who has inspiring words to say, feel free to contact us for an interview at contact@nicovandevenne.com. Thank you for listening. We will see you again soon with more inspirational conversations on achieving everlasting fulfillment.